All right, welcome everybody. Today we're going to do a little mini review of Enemy in Sight. Now, I know what you're saying, Lost Battalion Games. I thought that was an Avalon Hill game, and you're right, it's both. It was an old Avalon Hill game. I remember playing it quite fondly. It is a lot of fun. Now, this is not the kind of game that you're going to wheel out if you're some big, history buff that loves Age of Sail, naval warfare. It's more of kind of a kitschy, fun, luck-based game. It's not that much more complicated than, say, the game of war that you play with like a poker deck kind of thing as a kid. But it does have some fun theme to it, and the Lost Battalion Games version of this is absolutely worthwhile. One of the things, if you look on the secondhand market for the Avalon Hill games, one, they're few and far between. They're 30 years old plus, so they're in pretty rough shape. And you have to trust, if you're not getting one that has been kind of punched per se, you have to trust that folks were able to separate those perforated cards well. I remember as a kid, nobody seemed to be able to get those to tear cleanly. And as kids, we just got in there and ripped them apart kind of thing. So it was really cool to see that this was out there. It's not all that expensive, and there's a really good production values inside of this little box. Lots of game. So it plays at about 2 hours, depending on how skilled you are with it and really the luck of the draw with the cards. I mean, things can kind of cycle and go on and on and on, particularly if you're adding new ships and you're capturing ships. It just takes some time if that's the case. It comes with, I think it's 64 ship cards, 128 action deck cards, 63 laser cut tokens. And when they say these laser cut tokens, these are the tokens, and they are the same awesome laser cut tokens that you get from any of the Hollandspiel games, anybody who does print on demand through Blue Raven, and certainly Victory Point. So they are just fantastic. They're nice and chunky and heavyweight. Are exactly what you know from those games already. So that's already a great upgrade. And two, they've done a nice job with the graphic design on here. So like the shipboard fire has smoke pouring out of the gun ports and that sort of thing. And it's really kind of nice. The ship cards, this is kind of the heart of the game, are the ship cards and the action cards. And as a result, the ship cards are a lot of fun. So these run number of different nationalities. You've got the French and the Spanish and the English and the Americans. There are lots of different ships. They're all rated from first-rate ships, like the HMS Victory, all the way down to 6th-rate ships. So in between, and what basically what gives you is some rigging, kind of health points, and some hull damage limits. So you can also flip it over when that ship has been completely damaged here, and notice that its rigging is gone, it's been dismasted, and now we're just on to the hull. In addition, it's going to tell you the name of the ship, the country, the rate, and these are they're kind of flimsy, but I'll be honest with you, I've played it enough. They're easy to shuffle. The only tricky thing is getting them off the table sometimes, but because you're not shoving these things all over the place, it's easy to just pick the whole stack of cards up. So you'll pick 6 of these cards randomly, and then typically you're going to get, usually 1, maybe 2 first and second rates in there, and a lot of 3rd and 4th rate ships, and then, a couple 5th and 6th, right? So it's a pretty good spread usually every time that over the course of time, I think folks have pretty well figured out the math behind all of it. And then you get a handful of these action cards, and every single one of these action cards that's yellow is actually a broadside that's fired. And they're determined based on the rate of the actual ship that's eligible to use it. So if you have a second-rate broadside, a second-rate or a first-rate ship can fire it. Likewise with a 5th-rate broadside, less damage to the rigging and hull, but any ship 5th-rate through 1st-rate can fire that. There are other, cards that come up inside of the deck that kind of make things fun. So you might have a mixed fleet of French and British and Spanish fighting another mixed fleet that has the Americans and the British primarily. And then all of a sudden you'll pull one of these additional ship cards, and the next thing you know, you have an American ship joining in on your side. So the length of your line of battle might change throughout the game, both from having ships that are sunk, ships that return to port for repair, ships that you've actually boarded and captured. And there are other event cards that happen as well. So, for example, they might catch fire, which you need this bucket brigade for. You might also get cards that have these red triangles in the upper corners. Actually, all four corners have one. When you get those are must play, and of course you get a little reminder in the back here that says must play so that your opponent knows you're not hanging on to these cards. When I play with my son, he always ends up with this like terrible luck where he has to get like two of these in his hand, and it's like, oh man, I can't do anything. I'm just playing these must play. And typically the must play cards aren't great. This one, Admiralty's Orders. This one actually sends a ship back to port, so that's no bueno for sure. But there are other great things in here. There's Blockade, which is going to prevent ships from getting in and out of the ports, the boarding party. You can break the line. There are convoys that can happen as well. Again, it's really well done and it's a lot of fun, but if you are thinking that this is going to be some great strategic card-based game a la, Up Front or something like that, it's not. Comes with a couple of dice as well. But I think the real highlight here is that S. Craig Taylor Jr. and Terry Coleman have gone through the original rulebook and they've kind of cleaned it up. And I remember that original rulebook. It was like this tiny little, Avalon Hill thing, and their classic like blue, light blue and white black text kind of thing. This is a nice full color game book, and it is immensely understandable. So this is, again, really easy to go through. If you know the game even a little bit, you're going to love taking a look at this because it cleans up some of those edge cases that you may have remembered, particularly around like breaking the line. That's sort of like a complicated thing. And again, you get a nice index in the front here. But overall, this is the game that you know, you love, and remember. It's been cleaned up. It has great production values. I 100% recommend it. Lost Battalion Games, awesome job, you guys. This was really a lot of fun. Brought back some great memories for me, and I'll be looking out to get more Lost Battalion games, whether they're Avalon Hill reprints or not. So it was awesome. Thanks so much, and I hope you enjoyed watching this brief review. If you can take a second and subscribe, I'd love to be able to do some live streaming content for y'all, but until I get 25 subscribers, I can't do that. So if you go ahead, hit subscribe below. If you want any other information, you can always check me out at wargamehq.com. You can go on to Twitter. I'm at wargamehq. And until next time, I hope that you get some time to play some war games.